My fake girlfriend got so jealous when another woman flirted with me at a party that she grabbed my hand, pulled me close, and kissed me in front of everyone, completely forgetting that our entire relationship was supposed to be pretend. Before I tell you what happened after that kiss and how we both realized that somewhere along the way we had stopped pretending, tell me in the comments which city you are watching from and make sure to subscribe to the channel to help support more stories like this. My name is Devin, and the fake girlfriend arrangement started 3 months ago as a practical solution to a problem we both had. I had been working at a marketing firm in Austin for 2 years, constantly fending off unwanted attention from a coworker named Brad, who could not take a hint. My friend and coworker Paige had the opposite problem. Her traditional family was pressuring her to bring someone home for the holidays, and she was not ready to come out to them yet. We were having drinks after work one Friday when we both vented about our respective situations, and Paige jokingly suggested we just date each other to solve both problems. Except it was not really a joke, and the more we talked about it, the more sense it made. I could tell Brad I had a girlfriend, and he would finally back off. Paige could bring me home for Thanksgiving and buy herself time to come out on her own terms. "It is perfect," she said, already warming to the idea. "We are friends, we like each other, we can be convincing. We just need to set some ground rules so nobody catches actual feelings and ruins the friendship." Ground rules, I agreed, even though something about the way she said it made my stomach twist in a way I chose not to examine too closely. Because here is what I had not told Paige. I had been harboring a crush on her since about 3 weeks after I started at the company. She was beautiful in an effortless way. With long auburn hair she was always tucking behind her ears, green eyes that lit up when she laughed, and a smile that made my entire day better. She was smart and funny and kind, and I had spent 2 years carefully hiding my feelings because I valued her friendship too much to risk it. So when she suggested we fake date, part of me saw it as a terrible idea that would only make my unrequited feelings worse. But another part of me, the part that was weak and hopeful and desperate for any excuse to be close to her, immediately said yes. We established rules. No kissing unless absolutely necessary for appearances, keep physical affection to hand-holding and casual touches, be clear about the timeline and end date, and most importantly, communicate if either of us started to feel uncomfortable. The arrangement started simply enough. I told Brad I was seeing someone, and when he asked who, I said Paige from the analytics team. His face fell in disappointment, but he backed off immediately, which was a relief. At work, Paige and I started having lunch together more often, leaving the office together, acting like a couple in small ways that felt both natural and agonizing. The real test came 2 weeks later at a company happy hour. Paige reached over and took my hand under the table, lacing our fingers together while she talked to a coworker about a project. It was casual, the kind of thing couples do without thinking, but my heart was racing and I could barely focus on the conversation. When the happy hour ended and we walked to our cars, she kept holding my hand until we reached her vehicle. "That went well," she said, finally releasing my hand. "I think people bought it." "Definitely," I managed, trying to sound normal instead of like my entire nervous system was on fire from her touch. "Are you okay?" she asked, looking at me with concern. "You seem tense. Is this arrangement making you uncomfortable? We can stop if you want." "No," I said quickly. "I am fine, just not used to the hand-holding thing." She smiled. "Me neither. But it felt nice." "Is that weird?" "Not weird," I said, though my heart was screaming that it felt better than nice, that it felt like everything I had ever wanted. The next milestone was Paige's family Thanksgiving, which loomed in my mind like both a dream and a nightmare. She coached me for weeks on her family dynamics, her traditional parents who had specific expectations, her older brother who was protective, her younger sister who was perceptive, and might see through our act. We practiced our story about how we met, how long we had been dating, what we liked about each other. "Keep it vague but believable," she advised. "Say things like you appreciate my sense of humor or my work ethic. Nothing too romantic that will make them suspicious, but nothing too casual that will make them think we are not serious." What I wanted to say was that I loved the way she laughed at her own jokes before delivering the punchline, that I admired how she always stood up for the junior team members, that I thought about her constantly. Instead, I said, "Got it. Vague, but believable." The drive to her parents' house was 4 hours, and we spent most of it going over our story and listening to music. But somewhere around hour 3, the conversation shifted to more personal topics. She told me about her struggles with coming out, about knowing since high school but never feeling safe enough to be open about it. I shared my own coming out story, the mix of acceptance and rejection from different parts of my life. "Thank you for doing this," she said as we got closer to her hometown. "I know it is a lot to ask, pretending to be my girlfriend and meeting my family, but it means a lot to me." "It is not a hardship," I said honestly. "Spending time with you is never a hardship." She looked over at me with an expression I could not quite read. "You are a really good friend, Devin." Friend? Right. That is what we were. Her family was exactly as she described, warm but traditional, welcoming but full of questions. Her mom immediately pulled me into a hug and said she had been hoping Paige would bring someone home. Her dad shook my hand firmly and asked about my job and my intentions. Her siblings were friendly, but clearly assessing whether I was good enough for their sister. Throughout the weekend, Paige and I maintained our act perfectly. We held hands at dinner, sat close on the couch during family movie night, exchanged looks and inside jokes that sold the story of two people who genuinely cared about each other. At night, we shared her childhood bedroom with its twin beds, and we would lie in the dark, talking in whispers until one of us fell asleep. On Saturday night, her sister cornered me in the kitchen while I was helping with dishes. "So," she said casually, "how long have you really been dating my sister?" "About 2 months," I said, sticking to our story. "And you are serious about her?" "Very serious," I said, which was not a lie even if the context was. Her sister studied me for a moment. "Good. She deserves someone who looks at her the way you do." "What way is that?" I asked, curious and slightly worried I was being too obvious. "Like she is the most important person in the room," her sister said. "Like you cannot believe your luck." "It is sweet." I did not know what to say to that, so I just smiled and went back to the dishes. The drive home Sunday evening was quieter than the drive up. We were both tired, and I think we were both processing the intensity of pretending to be a couple for an entire family. About an hour from Austin, Paige broke the silence. "My sister thinks you are great. She told me I should hold on to you." "She seems nice," I said neutrally. "She also said you look at me like you are in love with me," Paige continued, and my heart stopped. I told her she was reading too much into it, that you are just good at playing the part. "Right," I managed, "just playing the part." "Because we are just friends," she said, and I could not tell if she was reminding me or reminding herself. "Just friends," I echoed, hating every word. The rest of the drive passed in silence, and when she dropped me off at my apartment, the goodbye felt awkward for the first time since we started this arrangement. Over the next few weeks, something shifted between us. We still maintained our fake relationship at work and at social events, but there was a tension that had not been there before. Our touches lingered longer, our eye contact was more intense, and sometimes I would catch her looking at me with an expression that made me think, maybe, possibly, she was feeling what I was feeling. Then came the company holiday party, the event that changed everything. It was at a fancy hotel downtown, open bar, dancing, all our coworkers letting loose after a long year. Paige looked stunning in a dark green dress that matched her eyes, and I could not stop staring at her all night. We danced together, laughed together, played the role of happy couple with an ease that felt too natural. About halfway through the party, I went to the bar to get us fresh drinks. While I was waiting, a woman I did not recognize approached me. She was attractive, clearly a bit drunk, and very forward about her interest. "You look bored," she said, leaning close. "Want to dance with someone who will actually make it interesting?" "I am here with someone," I said politely, gesturing toward where Paige was talking to coworkers. "I do not see a ring," the woman said, putting her hand on my arm. "And you do not look that committed to whoever she is." "Actually, I am very committed," I started to say. But before I could finish, Paige appeared at my side. "There you are," she said, her voice tight. "I have been looking for you." She took my hand, but not in the casual way she usually did. This was possessive, almost aggressive. "Sorry," I said, confused by her tone. "I was just getting drinks." The other woman looked between us, smirked, and walked away. "Who was that?" Paige asked, her grip on my hand not loosening. "No idea. She just came up and started talking to me." "She was flirting with you," Paige said. And there was something in her voice I had never heard before. "I guess?" I told her I was with someone. "You should have told her you were with me," Paige said, her green eyes flashing with something that looked a lot like jealousy. "Paige, what is going on?" I asked, genuinely confused. "What is going on is that woman was all over you and you were just standing there letting her," she said, her voice rising slightly. "I was being polite and trying to get rid of her," I protested. "Why do you care so much? We are just pretending, remember?" The moment the words left my mouth, I saw something shift in her expression. She stared at me for a long moment, then seemed to make a decision. Without warning, she pulled me close, cupped my face in her hands, and kissed me. Not the kind of brief, performative kiss we had agreed might be necessary for appearances. This was real, deep, desperate, the kind of kiss that left no doubt about what she was feeling. When she finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard, and I was vaguely aware that several of our coworkers were staring. "That was not pretending," I said quietly. Her eyes widened as she seemed to realize what she had just done. "Oh my God," she whispered. "I just kissed you, in front of everyone, for real." "You did," I confirmed, my heart racing. "Why did you do that?" "Because that woman was touching you and I hated it," she said, the words tumbling out. "Because I have been watching people flirt with you for weeks and pretending it did not bother me. Because somewhere along the way I forgot we were fake dating and started just dating you in my head and I cannot pretend anymore." I stared at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. "You have real feelings for me?" "I have real feelings for you," she confirmed, looking terrified. "I think I have had them for a while, but I did not let myself acknowledge it because we had rules and boundaries and I did not want to ruin our friendship. But then I saw that woman flirting with you and I got so jealous I could not think straight and I just acted without thinking." "Paige," I said, taking her hands in mine. "I have been in love with you since before we started this fake dating thing. The only reason I agreed to it was because it meant I got to be close to you even if it was not real." Her eyes filled with tears. "You love me?" "I love you," I confirmed. "I have loved you for 2 years. I have been dying every time we hold hands or touch or pretend to be together because I wanted it to be real so badly." "It can be real," she said, smiling through tears, "if you want it to be. If you want to date me for real, not as a favor or an arrangement, but because you actually want to be with me." "I want that more than anything," I said, and kissed her again, not caring who was watching. When we finally pulled apart and looked around, half our office was grinning at us. Sarah from accounting actually started clapping, which made everyone else laugh. "So I guess you two are not faking it anymore," our boss said with an amused smile. "Definitely not faking it," Paige confirmed, still holding on to me like she was afraid I might disappear. We left the party shortly after, both of us too overwhelmed by what had just happened to stay. In my car in the parking lot, we sat holding hands and trying to process how we had gotten here. "I cannot believe I got jealous and blew our cover," Paige said, laughing at herself. "I cannot believe you have had feelings for me this whole time and I did not know," I countered. "I am good at hiding them," she said. "Or I thought I was. Apparently your sister saw right through me at Thanksgiving." "What?" I asked. "She told me after you talked to her in the kitchen that she could tell we were really in love, not faking." I insisted she was wrong, but she just laughed and said I would figure it out eventually. "She was right," I said softly. "She was right," Paige agreed. We talked for hours in that parking lot, about when our feelings had started, about all the moments we had both misread as just friendship or just acting. She told me about lying awake in her childhood bedroom during Thanksgiving, wanting to cross the space between our twin beds and just hold me. I told her about every time I had caught her looking at me and convinced myself I was imagining the longing in her eyes. "We wasted so much time," she said. "We were protecting our friendship," I said. "That matters. But we do not have to protect it anymore." That night marked the real beginning of us. We went on an actual first date the next weekend, and it was both familiar and completely new. We had spent months pretending to know everything about each other as a couple, but now we got to actually learn each other in that context. What she was like when she was nervous on a real date, how she smiled differently when the affection was genuine, the way she held my hand now that she was allowed to mean it. We had to have some awkward conversations at work, explaining to everyone that what started as fake had become real. Most people were supportive, though a few made jokes about the most elaborate dating strategy they had ever seen. Brad, thankfully, had moved on to pursuing someone else and barely reacted to the news. Paige told her family over Christmas, and to her surprise, they took it well. Her sister just laughed and said she knew at Thanksgiving that we were really together. The transition from fake to real was not always smooth. We had built habits and patterns during our fake relationship that we had to unlearn and rebuild as an actual couple. Sometimes we would catch ourselves being performative, acting like we were putting on a show, before remembering that we did not have to pretend anymore. And sometimes the intensity of finally being together after wanting it for so long was overwhelming. But we figured it out, together. 3 months after that jealous kiss at the holiday party, we were more solid than ever. 6 months in, she asked me to move in with her, and I said yes immediately. A year later, we celebrated our anniversary twice. Once for the fake dating arrangement that started it all, and once for the real relationship that began when she forgot it was fake. I cannot believe you got so jealous you outed us in front of the entire company, I teased her one night as we were making dinner together in our shared apartment. I cannot believe you were in love with me for 2 years and never said anything, she countered, hip-checking me playfully. I was protecting your feelings, I said. You were protecting yourself, she corrected. We both were. We were both so afraid of losing each other that we almost never had each other. But we figured it out, I said, wrapping my arms around her from behind. We figured it out, she agreed, leaning back against me. Though I do wish I had realized sooner. We could have been doing this the whole time instead of pretending. I do not know, I said thoughtfully. Maybe we needed the pretending. Maybe that is what made us both realize how much we wanted the real thing. Deep thoughts from my girlfriend, she teased, turning in my arms to face me. Your real girlfriend, I emphasized. Not your fake girlfriend who forgot she was supposed to be faking. Best mistake I ever made, she said, and kissed me with the kind of certainty that only comes from finally being with someone you almost lost. That was 2 years ago. Now we are engaged, planning a wedding for next fall. Her sister is going to be maid of honor, and she has already made approximately 100 jokes about how she knew all along. We still work at the same company, though Paige got promoted and now works on a different floor. And sometimes when we tell people our origin story, they laugh at how complicated we made it for ourselves. But I would not change anything about how we got here. Those 3 months of fake dating taught me how to be close to her, how to be comfortable with affection, how to imagine a life together. Without that time, I might never have been brave enough to believe she could want me back. And without that moment of jealousy, without her forgetting it was fake and kissing me like she meant it, we might have stayed trapped in pretending forever. Sometimes love needs permission to exist. Sometimes you need an excuse, an arrangement, a practical reason to get close to someone before you can admit you wanted them all along. And sometimes the best relationships start with 2 people pretending to be something they are not, only to discover that somewhere in the pretending, they became exactly what they were trying to fake. My fake girlfriend got jealous and forgot it was fake. She kissed me in front of everyone, exposed her real feelings, took a risk she had not planned on taking, and in doing so, she gave us both permission to stop hiding and start living the love story we had been too scared to write. I will forever be grateful to that random woman at the holiday party who flirted with me, because without her, Paige might never have gotten jealous enough to forget the rules we had set. Sometimes you need someone to cross a line before you realize the line was never real in the first place. So yes, we started as a practical arrangement to solve practical problems. We had rules and boundaries and a clear understanding that it was all pretend. But hearts do not follow rules. And somewhere between hand-holding for appearances and family Thanksgivings and late-night conversations, we both fell for real. And when she finally admitted it, when she got so jealous she could not maintain the facade anymore, that is when our real story began. The fake dating was just the prologue. The jealous kiss was chapter 1. And everything since has been the love story we both deserved, but were too afraid to reach for until we had no choice but to stop pretending.